Alrighty, welcome back, folks. We're going to jump right back into things here with the next division on our weekly review of the standings for the ECHL. And we're going to go through the ECHL Central Division, where the teams currently are, what their magic numbers are for the Kelly Cup playoffs as they're coming up, and what the matchups will look like, as well as what their schedules will look like for this upcoming week. So to start things off, we're going to start right at the top of the division with the Cincinnati Cyclones. The Cyclones currently with a 43-12, 6-3 record. Last week, the Cyclones went 3-0 with 3 wins in Utah, scoring 16 total goals, had 6, 4, and 6 in their 3 games, while allowing 10, 4, 3, and 3 in those 3 games in Utah. Again, the Cyclones have that 43-12, 6-3 record, 95 points overall. Right now, their magic number to eliminate the Indy Fuel is 1, so that is 2 points total that they need to eliminate the Fuel from being able to win the division. And their magic number for the Toledo Walleye, that number is 6. So again, multiply that by 2. That's the number of points that they need to eliminate the Toledo Walleye. Right now, the tiebreakers are very, very close. Cincinnati with 37 regulation wins. Toledo actually has 1 more. So right now, Toledo does hold that tiebreaker. That is the first tiebreaker with regulation wins. But then it comes to regulation plus overtime wins. Since Cincinnati has 42 of those, Toledo has 41. If it will come down to that second tiebreaker right now, the Cyclones would hold that tiebreaker. But again, Cincinnati with that 4-point lead. The Cyclones have 8 games left on their schedule. They will play 3 of those this week, where they will host South Carolina on Friday and then stay at home with the Wheeling Nailers coming in on Saturday and Sunday. So if they are able to, again, as I mentioned, just 2 points would eliminate the Fuel from being able to win the division. If they get all 6 of their points, they would need a little bit of help from Toledo to be able to clinch the division. But we were going to go ahead and jump into what the Walleye schedule looks like right now. Toledo so far on the season, 65 games played, a 42, 16, 4, and 3 record, 91 points overall. The Walleye went 1, 1, and 1 over the weekend, losing to Reading before beating Greenville on Saturday, and then losing to the Swamp Rabbits in a shootout on Sunday. Right now, the Walleye in second place by 11 points over the Indy Fuel. Their magic number is 3 over Indy. Again, need just 7 points, or excuse me, just 6 points for the Walleye to clinch that second spot. The Walleye this week will host Iowa on Friday, the Indy Fuel on Saturday, and then South Carolina on Sunday. South Carolina making that swing through the Central Division this week. So for the Walleye, again, 3 home games with the Heartlanders, Fuel, and Stingrays coming into town for them this weekend. Again, right now their magic number just 3 to eliminate the Indy Fuel from that second spot, and they're still 4 points back of Cincinnati for that first spot in the Central Division. But both Cincinnati as well as Toledo. Toledo actually has a skosh of a tougher schedule in terms of whether or not they're playing playoff teams. 2 of their 3 games will be against playoff teams, and then their third game is against the Iowa Heartlanders. While Cincinnati plays South Carolina, who is currently in second place in the Southern Division, excuse me, and then Wheeling, currently sitting in the 5th spot in the Central, is Cincinnati's opponent for the other 2 games of their weekend. The Indy Fuel currently sitting in 3rd spot in the Central Division. They have also clinched a playoff spot for the Kelly Cup playoffs already. They have played 64 of their 72 games so far this season, and they have accrued a 38-22, 4-0 record up to this point. Last week they went 1-1-1, playing Greenville once and Kalamazoo twice, losing to the Swamp Rabbits on Friday night, and then losing in overtime to Kalamazoo on Sunday before beating the K-Wings losing in overtime on Saturday before beating the K-Wings on Sunday. The Fuel play a little bit of ping pong in the Central Division this week. Their magic number, by the way, just 5, so that means they just need 10 points to clinch that 3rd spot. They would need a little bit of help from Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne, a little bit of a difficult schedule. Having at least 1 road game, that's always a little bit taller of a task. But the Fuel's schedule this week, they are home on Friday against Wheeling. They play the Nailers for the final time on Friday before they play Toledo for the final time in the regular season in Toledo on Saturday before hosting the K-Wings one more time on Sunday. That's Kalamazoo's last trip to Indy this regular season, so it will be this season overall. Yep, this will be their last trip to Indy on Sunday. But again, the Fuel's magic number just 5 to eliminate the Fort Wayne Komets and clinch that third spot in the division. In that fourth spot right now, in that fourth and final playoff position, the Fort Wayne Komets have played 63 games. With 9 games remaining left on their schedule, they actually have the most games remaining in the division, tied with Kalamazoo with that number. With 9 games remaining, Fort Wayne with a 32-24, 4-3 record, 71 points so far on their year. They went 2-0-0-1, winning 2 games in regulation and then losing in a shootout to the Rapid City Rush. Right now for Fort Wayne, their magic number is just 2. So that means if they are able to get any sort of a win or even get 1 point, and then if they actually just need 2 points to eliminate Wheeling. Fort Wayne this week will be in Kalamazoo on Friday before South Carolina visits the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum on Saturday, and then Iowa will visit Fort Wayne on Sunday. So Fort Wayne goes at Kalamazoo, home against South Carolina, home against Iowa for their week this week, and they're just kind of watching what Wheeling is doing. Wheeling on the road all weekend, going at Indy, at Cincinnati. So 2 very tough places to play for the Nailers. So it's very, very likely this weekend that Fort Wayne will wrap up that fourth and final spot in the Central Division, and then there might be some movement between third and fourth place if the Comets stay hot and if Indy starts to slip up at all. So you may see a little bit of movement with that as well. Currently in fifth place in that Central Division, the Wheeling Nailers have played 64 games so far this year. They're 26-33, 5-0. 57 points on the year for Wheeling. They are trailing Fort Wayne and the playoffs by 14 points, and with 8 games left on the season, again, that margin of error is razor thin, and it's very, very, very slim that Wheeling will be able to surpass Fort Wayne and make the playoffs, especially since they only have 20 regulation wins on the year compared to Fort Wayne's 27, and then Fort Wayne has 30 regulation plus overtime wins, while Wheeling has just 24. So again, in terms of tiebreakers, Wheeling is pretty far behind in that category. Wheeling, their magic number is 4 to eliminate the Iowa Heartlanders. And that is the case there. And then it is 8 for them to eliminate the Kalamazoo Wings and clinch that 5th spot. Again, just semantics at that point, considering that Wheeling's probably going to miss out on the playoffs. And then next up in our standings, by the way, Wheeling, as I mentioned, their schedule is at Indy on Friday and then at Cincinnati on Saturday and Sunday. And then next up, we have the Kalamazoo Wings. The K-Wings, again, have 9 games left on their schedule, tied with Fort Wayne for the most games left on their schedule in the Central Division. Through their first 63 games up to this point, Kalamazoo has accrued a 25-34, 4-0 record. Kalamazoo won their first game on Friday of this week, beating Wheeling before beating Indy on Saturday in overtime before losing to the Fuel on Sunday. They scored just 7 goals while allowing just 6. So pretty good week for the K-Wings, but again, being right now only 54 points for the Wings on the year, they are 3 points back of Wheeling for that 5th spot, in the division. Right now, just 16 regulation wins for Kalamazoo on the season. So again, they do not hold that tiebreaker right now. Their magic number is 6 to eliminate the Iowa Heartlanders and make sure that Iowa finishes in last place. Kalamazoo will host Fort Wayne on Friday. They will host the Iowa Heartlanders on Saturday before driving down to Indianapolis for their final game in the Circle City on Sunday. So 2 home games for the K-Wings this week, hosting Fort Wayne and Iowa before traveling down to Indy. Iowa in last place in the Central Division right now through their first 64 games. They have accrued a 17-33, 13-1 record. Those 13 overtime losses leading the ECHL. Just 48 points for the Heartlanders, 6 points back of Kalamazoo for 6th place. Again, their match elimination number is 6 to finish anywhere except for last place with 8 games left to play. For the Heartlanders, again, they have a tough stretch. going at Toledo, at Kalamazoo, and then at Fort Wayne. They're also bouncing back and forth. Again, a long drive from Coralville in the first place to have to go all the way over to Toledo, and then they have to drive over back to Kalamazoo and then back to Fort Wayne before heading back to Iowa. Certainly not great for them, but again, it's not horrendous travel within the Central Division, but still having to travel from city to city after playing a game, that's not fun, and that's going to be difficult for the Heartlanders to do. And so again, as the Central Division playoffs are shaping up, currently what the matchups would be Cincinnati and Fort Wayne in the first round, and then Toledo and Indy in the first round. Of course, that Toledo-Indy series would be a rematch of the Fuel's first playoff series ever, which happened back in the 17-18 postseason with the Walleye sweeping the Fuel 4-0. So that's what your Central Division looks like. We're going to check back in a little bit later with a little bit more detail for the Indy Fuel about what happened with them last week. Going to go over a little bit more of their statistics as well as a little bit more details about what happened with them. But to wrap up the ECHL standings, we're going to have one more video on that, which is going to be coming up right after this, where we're going to go over the ECHL's Mountain Division. Of course, Idaho has already clinched that, but we're going to look at what is going on for spots 2 through 7 for that division. So that one's coming your way next. Stay tuned for that, folks.